Money King. Jojo's life had taken a desperate turn as he sat outside under the scorching sun in the slums of Nairobi, surrounded by the harsh realities of poverty. He felt the weight of impending homelessness pressing down on him, and with no money to his name, he knew he had to act. Determined to find work or at least a meal for the day, Jojo approached vegetable vendors, offering to be their errand boy, but all his efforts were in vain. The day passed, and Jojo's stomach gnawed at him with hunger as frustration mounted. Night fell, and sleep was elusive. The following day, Jojo ventured into the small kitchens in the markets, willing to do any job, even if it meant mopping floors or washing dishes. However, there were no vacancies, and his desperation grew deeper. He resorted to asking for discarded food that was about to be thrown out or leftovers from customers' plates. Fortunately, he managed to fill his empty stomach with this meager sustenance. It was now the final day, and Jojo knew he was on the brink of being locked out of a shanty house. He packed his few belongings into a small backpack, taking one last look at the life he was leaving behind, a life that had become increasingly difficult. Jojo's quest for employment led him to the middle-class areas, where he sought car wash jobs, but there were no openings. He sat near a group of boda riders, eavesdropping on a radio broadcast that spoke of the government's tax increases. The frustration among those who heard the news was palpable. Seeking solace, Jojo went to a public park, choosing a spot under a tree for its shade. As he watched people going about their activities, a pastor began preaching nearby, attracting attention. Two city council workers approached the pastor, asking for his preaching license, which he failed to provide, leading to his capture. Jojo was surprised to learn that even street preachers were taxed. As the day turned into evening, the park emptied out, and Jojo began searching for a place to spend the night. He found a corner among a group of homeless individuals and settled in, braving the chilly night. Morning arrived with the noise of protesters decrying the high cost of living. Jojo, still in his corner, was caught in the crossfire between protesters and the police. Tear gas and water cannons were unleashed upon them, and soon, Jojo found himself detained by the anti-riot police. Inside the confines of a jail cell, Jojo's eyes locked onto one of the thugs who had mugged him. Rage welled up within him, but he knew that acting out in such a place would be unwise. He bided his time, awaiting his fate and hoping that, at the very least, he would receive a meal during his time in jail. However, when he approached a police officer to inquire about food, he received a harsh and dismissive response, reminding him that he was far from the comforts of his mother's kitchen. Inside the jail cell, Jojo found himself among hundreds of other protesters. His feelings were a mix of frustration, anger, and resignation. He couldn't help but reflect on how his life had taken such a desperate turn. As he observed the other detainees, he realized that he was not alone in his struggles. Many of them had stories of hardship and injustice that were just as poignant as his own. In the dimly lit cell, Jojo's stomach rumbled loudly, a stark reminder of his persistent hunger. He glanced around, hoping that at some point, the authorities would provide them with a meal. He had heard stories of meals being served to detainees, and he clung to the hope that he wouldn't go to bed on an empty stomach. Hours passed, and the cramped cell felt suffocating. Jojo tried to engage in conversation with some of the other detainees to pass the time. He heard stories of unemployment, rising prices, and families struggling to make ends meet. It became evident that the protests were fueled by the collective frustration of people facing economic hardships. Jojo's thoughts drifted to the outside world, the streets of Nairobi where he had fought to survive. He pondered the challenges he had encountered in his search for work and food. The memory of Sheila's kindness and the warmth of their brief connection offered a glimmer of hope amidst the bleakness of his current situation. But he didn't want to call her, he didn't want her to see him in such a desperate state. As the evening wore on, a guard finally entered the cell, bearing trays of food. Jojo's heart leapt with joy at the prospect of a meal. He eagerly grabbed a tray, and as he savored every bite, he couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude. Even in the midst of his dire circumstances, he spent his time listening to the stories of other detainees, sharing their pain and their dreams for a better life. It was in that cramped jail cell that Jojo learned the power of unity and solidarity, as people from diverse backgrounds came together in their pursuit of justice and a brighter future. When the day of his trial finally arrived, Jojo stood before the judge, hoping for a fair verdict. He knew that his life hung in the balance, but he also knew that he had the resilience to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the court proceedings unfolded, Jojo's fate remained uncertain, but his determination to overcome adversity burned stronger than ever. From this episode we learn that even in the bleakest of circumstances, there are opportunities to connect with others, learn from their experiences, and find strength in unity. Jojo's time in jail served as a powerful reminder that resilience and the ability to adapt to difficult situations are essential qualities for any entrepreneur. The challenges he faced, along with the collective spirit of those he met, showcased the human capacity to persevere and find hope, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Stay tuned for the next episode of Money King for more inspiring stories and valuable lessons. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join us on this adventurous journey to success.